Marcus Webb had built his life from nothing. At 53, he owned 3 diners across the South Side clean, honest places where working families could afford a hot meal and leave with full bellies. He'd started as a dishwasher 30 years ago, worked doubles until his hands cracked, saved every dollar, and finally opened his first place when he was 40. Now, on a cool Tuesday morning, he stood outside his flagship diner, Webb's Kitchen, wearing an old jacket and a baseball cap pulled low. Nobody here knew his face. He'd hired a manager, Denise, to run things while he oversaw operations from his office downtown. But lately, the numbers weren't adding up. Complaints had trickled in. Nothing major, but enough to make him uneasy. So Marcus decided to see for himself. The bell chimed as he pushed through the door. The smell of coffee and bacon grease filled the air. Red vinyl booths lined the windows. A few early customers sat scattered throughout. A truck driver, an elderly woman with a newspaper, a young mother feeding her toddler. Behind the counter stood 2 servers. One was a young black woman, maybe mid-20s, with kind eyes and her hair pulled back neat. Her name tag read Maya. The other was a white woman in her 40s, blonde and sharp-featured, wearing too much makeup for a morning shift. Her tag said Brenda. Marcus slid onto a stool at the counter, keeping his head down. Maya approached first, smiling warmly. "Good morning, sir. Coffee to start?" "Please," Marcus said quietly. "And just some toast? Wheat, if you got it." "We do." "I'll get that right out for you." She moved with grace, pouring his coffee without spilling a drop. But before she could turn toward the kitchen, Brenda leaned in close and whispered something Marcus couldn't quite hear. Maya's smile faltered. Just for a second. Then she nodded and walked away. Marcus felt a cold knot form in his chest. That whisper, it carried weight. The kind of weight that changes everything. He sipped his coffee and waited. Watching carefully now, something wasn't right in his diner. Part 2. The whispers echo. Marcus sat still, his hands wrapped around the warm coffee mug. He kept his eyes low but his ears sharp. Maya had disappeared into the kitchen, and Brenda stood at the register, tapping her nails against the counter with a bored, irritated rhythm. A moment later, Maya returned with his toast, 2 slices, lightly buttered, on a small white plate. She set it down gently in front of him. "There you go, sir. Anything else I can get you?" "No, ma'am. This is perfect. Thank you." Maya's smile was polite, but Marcus noticed the tension in her shoulders, the way her eyes didn't quite meet his. She moved to refill another customer's coffee, and Brenda stepped closer to her, whispering again, this time just loud enough for Marcus to catch a few words. Double quotes, ... ZOULD, and have to serve his kind this early. Marcus's jaw tightened. His pulse quickened. But he didn't move, didn't react. He'd learned long ago that anger without strategy was just noise. Maya's face remained composed, but her hands trembled slightly as she poured the coffee. She said nothing back to Brenda, just nodded and kept working. Marcus took a bite of his toast. It was cold. Not just cool cold, like it had been sitting out for a while. He glanced toward the kitchen. Fresh toast took 2 minutes, maybe 3. This had been sitting somewhere, waiting. Brenda caught his eye and smirked. Just barely. Just enough. He understood then. This wasn't an accident. This was a message. Marcus finished his toast in silence, his mind working through what he'd just witnessed. He left a $5 bill on the counter, more than enough for toast and coffee, and stood to leave. As he passed the counter, Maya caught his eye for just a second. There was something there, an apology she couldn't speak, a hurt she couldn't hide. He gave her the smallest nod. "I see you." Then he walked out into the cool morning air, his heart heavy, but his resolve hardening like steel. He'd built this place to be a refuge, a place where everyone was treated with dignity. and someone had poisoned it. Marcus pulled out his phone and made a call. Denise? It's Marcus. We need to talk. Today. Part 3. The pattern revealed Marcus sat in his car across the street from the diner, watching through the window. He didn't leave. He couldn't. Not yet. For the next 2 hours, he observed. Every interaction, every customer, every whisper, and a pattern emerged. When white customers came in, Brenda greeted them warmly. She laughed, refilled their coffee without being asked, brought extra napkins, made small talk. She moved with energy, like she cared. But when black customers entered, an older man in a work uniform, a woman with 2 children, a teenager in a hoodie, Brenda's demeanor shifted. She became cold, distant. She took their orders with barely concealed impatience, dropped plates without a word, and disappeared into the back. Maya picked up the slack every time. She smiled at everyone, checked on every table, apologized for delays that weren't her fault. She was carrying the entire floor on her back, and Brenda let her. Marcus's chest burned with quiet fury. Around 10:30, Denise arrived, the manager he'd hired a year ago. She was a sharp woman in her 50s, organized and no-nonsense. He trusted her to run things right. She walked through the door, glanced around, and went straight to the back office without acknowledging either server. Marcus made a mental note. Denise should have been on the floor. She should have seen what was happening. He waited until 11, then walked back inside. This time, Brenda was the one who approached him. Her smile was thin and professional, but her eyes were flat. Back again? What can I get you? Just coffee, black. She poured it without a word and slid the cup toward him, sloshing a bit onto the counter. No apology. No napkin offered. Marcus wrapped his hands around the cup and spoke quietly. Been working here long? Brenda raised an eyebrow. Long enough. Why? Just curious. Seems like a good place. She shrugged. It's a job. Marcus nodded slowly. The other server, Maya, she knew? Brenda's expression tightened. She's been here a few months. Works too hard, if you ask me. Trying to impress people who don't care. Marcus let that sit in the air for a moment. Then he said, she seems kind. She's fine, Brenda said sharply. Look, you need anything else or not? No, ma'am. I'm good. Brenda walked away, and Marcus saw Maya watching from across the room. Their eyes met again. This time, hers held a question. Who are you? He didn't answer. Not yet, but soon. She'd know. Part 4. The breaking point. Marcus returned to his office that afternoon and pulled up the diner's records. Complaints, reviews, sales reports. He cross-referenced dates and times, and the picture became clearer. 3 formal complaints in the last 4 months, all from black customers. All describing cold service, long waits, and dismissive treatment. All happening during Brenda's shifts. Denise had marked them as resolved without any real follow-up. No disciplinary notes. No staff meetings. Nothing. Marcus leaned back in his chair, his hands pressed together. He'd built this business on respect, on dignity, and somehow it had rotted from the inside. He made another call. Denise, my office. Tomorrow morning, 9 sharp. Is everything okay? She asked, her voice uncertain. We'll talk tomorrow. He hung up and stared at the reports in front of him. He could fire Brenda today. He had every right. But that wouldn't fix the problem. It wouldn't teach the lesson that needed teaching. No. This required something more. The next morning, Marcus, dressed in his usual suit and tie, grabbed his briefcase and headed to the diner. He arrived just before the morning rush and walked straight into the back office, where Denise was sorting paperwork. She looked up, startled. Marcus, I didn't know you were coming by. Didn't think I needed permission to visit my own place, he said calmly. setting his briefcase down. Of course not. We need to talk about Brenda. Denise's face shifted. Guarded now. What about her? She's been treating black customers differently. I've seen it myself. And you've been dismissing complaints. Denise hesitated. Marcus, I looked into those complaints. They were mostly misunderstandings. You know how some people are. They're just looking for something to be upset about. Marcus felt ice settle into his veins. Some people? You know what I mean, Denise said quickly. I'm just saying, Brenda's got her quirks, but she's reliable. She shows up. She works hard. And Maya? Maya's fine. She's good at her job. Just good? Denise shifted uncomfortably. Look, Marcus, I don't know what you're getting at, but I run a tight ship here. If there was a real problem, I'd handle it. Marcus stared at her for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. Okay, I'm going to spend the day here. See how things run. You don't mind, do you? No, of course not. But her eyes said otherwise. Marcus walked out onto the floor just as the morning rush began. And he watched Everything. Part 5. The gathering storm. Marcus stationed himself at a booth in the corner, laptop open, looking like any other customer catching up on work. But his eyes never stopped moving. The morning rush hit hard families before school, workers grabbing breakfast to go, regulars who came in every day. Maya moved like water through the chaos, taking orders with a smile, remembering names, checking on refills without being asked. She was a natural. Brenda, meanwhile, worked only when she had to. She took orders from white customers with warmth, but when a young black father came in with his daughter, Brenda barely looked up. What do you need? She asked flatly. Pancakes for her, scrambled eggs for me. And 2 orange juices, please. Brenda scribbled it down without a word and walked away. No, coming right up. No smile for the little girl. Maya noticed. She always noticed. She walked over with crayons and a coloring sheet for the child, kneeling down to her level. What's your name, sweetie? Amara, the girl said shyly. That's a beautiful name. You like pancakes? Amara nodded and Maya grinned. Me too. I'll make sure they're extra fluffy, okay? The father's face softened with gratitude. Thank you, of course. Marcus watched it all. His chest ached with pride and anger. Maya was everything he'd wanted this place to be. And Brenda was everything he'd sworn it would never become. Around 10 o'clock, a situation unfolded that made Marcus's decision for him. An elderly black woman came in, moving slowly with a cane. She took a seat at the counter, breathing heavily from the effort. Brenda was closest, but she didn't move. She wiped down the same spot on the counter twice, pretending not to see her. Maya rushed over. Good morning, ma'am. Take your time. What can I get you? Just some oatmeal, honey. And water. Absolutely. Be right back. As Maya turned toward the kitchen, Brenda muttered just loud enough for Marcus to hear. She acts like she's running for Sing of the Year. Maya froze. Just for a heartbeat. Then she kept walking, but Marcus saw the hurt flash across her face. That was it. The line had been crossed. Marcus closed his laptop, stood, and walked straight to the back office. Denise was on the phone. He didn't wait for her to finish. Hang up. She blinked. Marcus, hang up. She did that. Marcus folded his arms. I'm taking over the floor today. You're going to sit here and watch the security footage from the last 3 months. Every shift Brenda worked. And then we're going to have a very serious conversation. Denise's face went pale. Marcus, I'm not asking. He walked back out, his heart pounding. The storm was here, and it was time to let it break. Part 6. The mask falls. By noon, the diner had quieted. The lunch crowd would hit soon, but for now, there was a lull. Marcus stood behind the counter, arms crossed, watching Brenda refill ketchup bottles with slow, deliberate movements. Maya was in the back, taking her break. Brenda finally noticed him staring. She straightened, irritation flickering across her face. "Can I help you with something?" Marcus stepped forward. His voice was calm, steady. "Yeah, I've been watching you all morning." Brenda's eyes narrowed. "Excuse me?" "I've been watching how you treat people, and I don't like what I'm seeing." She let out a short, bitter laugh. "Who do you think you are? You some kind of health inspector?" "No," Marcus said quietly. "I'm the owner." The color drained from Brenda's face. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. Marcus continued, his voice even. "I opened this place so people could come in and feel welcome. All people. I built it on respect. And you've been spitting on that every single day." I don't know what you're talking about," Brenda stammered. "I do my job. I show up. I work hard." "You show up," Marcus agreed. "But you don't work. You serve some customers with a smile and treat others like they're invisible. Or, worse, like they're a burden." "That's not true. I've seen it with my own eyes. I've read the complaints. I've watched you ignore people, disrespect them, whisper about them. And I watched you try to break Maya's spirit because she's everything you're not." Brenda's face twisted. "She's not better than me. She just acts like she is. Always smiling, always trying so hard. It's fake." "No," Marcus said firmly. "It's called kindness. It's called dignity. And you wouldn't recognize it if it hit you in the face." Brenda's hand shook. "You can't fire me. I've been here longer than anyone. I know this place inside and out." Marcus leaned forward, his voice dropping low. "You're right. You do know this place. You know exactly where the line is, and you've been dancing on it for months, thinking nobody would notice. But I notice everything. Because this isn't just a diner to me. It's my legacy, and I won't let you destroy it." Tears welled in Brenda's eyes, not from remorse, but from rage and humiliation. "This is because I'm white, isn't it?" she hissed. "You're just looking for an excuse. This has nothing to do with your skin," Marcus said, his voice like stone. "This is about your character, or the lack of it." At that moment, Denise emerged from the back office, her face ashen. She held a folder filled with printed footage stills and complaint reports. "Marcus, I didn't realize it was this bad." You thought wrong," Marcus said. "You chose not to see it. That's just as bad." Denise nodded slowly, her voice barely a whisper. "I'm sorry." Marcus turned back to Brenda. "You're done. Clean out your locker. I'll mail your final check." Brenda's face went red. "You'll regret this." "I'll sue." You'll do nothing," Marcus said calmly. "Because I have documentation, witnesses, and video proof. Walk away while you still can." Brenda grabbed her purse and stormed toward the door. But before she left, she turned back one last time. "This place won't last without me." Marcus didn't blink. "We'll be just fine." The door slammed behind her, and the diner felt lighter already. Part 7. The Reckoning. The rest of the day passed in a strange, heavy silence. Word spread quickly among the staff that Brenda was gone, and Marcus was back in charge. Some seemed relieved. Others looked nervous. Maya returned from her break and froze when she saw Marcus standing behind the counter, arms folded, watching the floor like a captain at the helm of his ship. Denise pulled her aside and whispered something. Maya's eyes went wide. She looked at Marcus, then looked away quickly, her cheeks flushing. Marcus gave her space. He knew this was overwhelming for her, learning that the quiet man she'd served, Toasty yesterday, was actually the person who owned everything she'd been working so hard to protect. As the dinner shift wound down, Marcus called a staff meeting. Everyone gathered in the dining area: cooks, dishwashers, servers. About a dozen people in all. Marcus stood in front of them, his voice calm but commanding. Most of you don't know me. I'm Marcus Webb. I own this diner and the two others in the area. I started as a dishwasher 30 years ago, and I worked my way up. I built this place because I believe everyone deserves good food, fair prices, and respect. That's the foundation. That's the standard. He paused, letting his words settle. But somewhere along the way, that standard slipped. And I take responsibility for that. I trusted people to uphold it, and I didn't check in enough. That changes today. He looked directly at Denise. Denise, you're a good manager in a lot of ways, but you turned a blind eye to something serious, and that can't happen again. You're staying on, but you're on notice. If I hear one more complaint that you ignore, you're gone. Understood? Denise nodded, her eyes glistening. Understood. Marcus's gaze swept across the room. For the rest of you, if you see something wrong, you speak up. You come to me. You don't let it fester. We're a team, and every single person who walks through that door deserves the same respect you'd want for yourself. I don't care what they look like, where they're from, or how much money they have. We treat everyone right, period. Heads nodded. A few people murmured agreement. Then Marcus turned to Maya. Maya, can you stay for a few minutes after? She nodded, her expression uncertain. The meeting ended, and people slowly filtered out. Soon, it was just Marcus and Maya, sitting across from each other in a booth. I'm sorry, Marcus said quietly. Maya blinked. For what? For what you had to go through. For not seeing it sooner. For not protecting you the way I should have. Maya's eyes filled with tears. She looked down at her hands. I didn't think anyone noticed. I noticed, Marcus said, and I'm making sure it never happens again. She wiped her eyes and let out a shaky breath. Thank you. I love this job. I love the people. I just wanted to do good work. You do, Marcus said. You're exactly the kind of person I want representing this place. In fact, I want you to train new hires from now on. Teach them how to treat people. Teach them what this place is really about. Maya looked up, her eyes wide. Really? Really? And that comes with a raise. A slow, genuine smile spread across her face. Thank you, Mr. Webb. Marcus, he said. Just Marcus. She nodded, and for the first time in months, she looked like she could breathe. Part 8. A new morning 3 months later. Webb's kitchen had transformed. Maya had become the heart of the place. She trained every new hire with patience and warmth, instilling in them the values Marcus had built the diner on. The staff respected her. The customers loved her. And she carried herself with a quiet confidence that came from knowing she was valued. Denise had stepped up too. She spent more time on the floor, checked in with employees regularly, and handled complaints with care and seriousness. She'd learned her lesson, and she was determined not to lose Marcus's trust again. As for Marcus, he still dropped by unannounced from time to time, not to spy, but to remind everyone that he was present, that he cared, and that this place still mattered to him. One morning, he walked in and found Maya behind the counter, training a young man named Jamal. She was showing him how to fold napkins properly, how to greet customers with warmth, how to listen. Good morning, sir, Jamal said when he saw Marcus. Coffee? Please, Marcus said with a smile. Jamal poured it carefully, set it down without spilling a drop, and smiled. Anything else? Just some toast. Wheat, if you got it. Maya glanced at Marcus, and her eyes sparkled with recognition. She remembered that morning. The quiet man in the cap. The cold toast. The whisper that had stopped him cold. Coming right up, she said softly. A few minutes later, she set the plate down in front of him. The toast was hot, perfectly buttered, with a side of fresh strawberry jam. Marcus took a bite and nodded. Perfect. Maya smiled. That's the standard. Marcus looked around the diner. The booths were full. Laughter floated through the air. People of all kinds, black, white, Latino, Asian, young, old, sat together, sharing meals and stories. The place hummed with warmth. This was what he dreamed of. This was what he'd built, and it had almost been stolen by cruelty and indifference. But it wasn't, because one morning, Marcus had decided to see for himself, to listen, to act. As he finished his coffee, an elderly woman approached the counter, a regular named Mrs. Thompson. She smiled at Maya and then at Marcus. "This place just keeps getting better," she said. "I tell everyone about it." Marcus smiled. "Thank you, ma'am. That means a lot." She nodded and shuffled toward her booth, and Marcus turned back to Maya. "You did this," he said quietly. "You held the line when nobody else would. You kept this place alive." Maya shook her head. "You built it. I just tried to honor it. And you did." She looked at him, her eyes full of gratitude and pride. "Thank you for believing in me." Marcus stood and put a hand on her shoulder. "Thank you for being exactly who you are." He left a $20 bill on the counter, waved goodbye, and walked out into the morning sun. Behind him, the diner buzzed with life, with dignity, with hope. And Marcus knew his legacy was safe, because it was built on something stronger than money or success. It was built on respect, and that no one could take away. The end.